Hello and welcome to another lesson. We are on to the next step in our value chain analysis strategy. In this lesson, we will learn all about analyzing and benchmarking. What is it and how to do it? Let's dive right in. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to analyze initial findings from mapping and cost breakdowns combined with benchmarking against industry standards, equips you as a procurement professional with a nuanced understanding of your costs. Comprehend that benchmarking is not a one-time activity, but a continuous process of comparison and improvement. Let me share a personal example before we continue our lesson. In my time as a procurement manager for the large global retailer, I was tasked with negotiating a significant pharmaceutical contract that we had a long business relationship with. I knew I needed a solid plan. My strategy was pretty straightforward but detailed. Let me walk you through it. Initially, I spent some time in looking into the general standards and benchmarks within my industry. It's always good to know what you're walking into, right? After getting a good sense of the industry, I focused on the company we were going to negotiate with. I dug into their latest annual reports, gathering key figures like their total revenue, how much they were spending on marketing, and what their profit margins look like. It took me an insane amount of hours of research, but it also gave me a clear picture of the financial status of the supplier I was negotiating with. Here's when things got interesting. A sizable retailer will be doing pretty well if they would hit an EBITDA margin of around and above 6%. However, I found out that the supplier we were negotiating with had a constant annual margin of above 30%, also in the last year. That's a huge difference. With this information, I approached the negotiation table. The supplier was pushing for another price increase, but I laid out the facts. The margin was significantly higher than ours and way above what seemed fair given the industry standards. Plus, their financials showed they were doing better than ever, and with overall costs going down, their ask for a price increase just didn't make sense. Sharing these insights made all the difference. It wasn't just about saying no to the price increase, it was about showing why it didn't add up. This approach gave us extra leverage in the negotiation. By the end, I felt like all that homework paid off. Not only did we push back on the price increase effectively, but we also ended up in a much stronger position than we might have otherwise. That way, we got our value without sacrificing much. All of that was possible through analyzing and benchmarking. First of all, why should we analyze the findings from mapping and breaking down the cost? By breaking down costs into fixed and variable components and comparing them against industry standards, you can determine which part of your value chain are most expensive. Additionally, it provides cost control. Benchmarking the performance of the value chain of your portfolio by comparing internal performance metrics against industry standards or specific competitors gives a clear picture of where your company stands in the competitive landscape. It helps you to identify areas of competitive advantage and areas where you are underperforming. But how do you analyze and benchmark the prices you pay for your products or services? No worries, we will walk you through the practical application of this. To facilitate this, we created a template designed to streamline the analysis and benchmarking process for procurement managers and professionals like yourself. This template not only helps in evaluating the cost components, but also guides in comparing these costs against market prices or industry benchmarks, identifying discrepancies, and determining necessary actions to enhance procurement efficiency. At the start of our template, we list out all the different types of cost components that are in your company's value chain. For each type of cost, we add a little note to explain what it is. This helps everyone to understand exactly where your company's money is going. Then we will fill in two kinds of costs, fixed and variable. Fixed costs don't change no matter how many products your company creates, like the rent for your warehouse. Variable costs, on the other hand, can go up or down depending on how much you're producing, like raw materials, fluctuate with production levels. Knowing the difference between these helps you to plan your budget better and figure out how costs can change with your production levels. In our template, we also mention how we measure its costs. This could be by the kilogram, by the hour, or by the unit. Making sure we measure costs in the same way makes it easier to compare costs properly, both within the business and with other companies. A key part of our template is comparing the purchase price, what we pay, with the market price, what others pay on average. You can either find out by comparing prices for different suppliers, ask for new prices at multiple new suppliers, or do research. This helps us from a procurement perspective to see if we're spending more or less than we should be. Spotting difference here can show us where we can save money or where we're doing already good. We then look at the price difference and percentage difference to understand how well we're spending our money compared to others. This shows us clearly where we can try to spend less. Finally, based on what we find from comparing our costs with others, we think about steps we can take to spend our money better. This might mean talking to our suppliers to get a better deal, looking for new suppliers, or changing how we buy things to save money. This whole process helps us take a closer look at our costs and figure out how to manage our money better, making sure we're getting the most out of every dollar or euro we spend. Moving on to assessing the company's financial performance through procurement margin analysis, it's crucial to understand how we determine the industry benchmark margin, which serves as a critical point of comparison. The industry benchmark margin is typically obtained through market research or industry reports that provide average margin data for companies within the same sector. This benchmark allows companies to compare their performance against peers. The variance is then calculated by subtracting the company's margin from the industry benchmark margin. A positive variance indicates that the company's margin is higher than the industry average, while a negative variance shows it's lower. In the context of the example that we provided, where the total margin is 20% and the benchmark margin is 25%, the margin variance of 5% is calculated by deducting the industry benchmark from your margin. This means the company's total margin is 5% lower than the industry average, suggesting areas for improvement in cost control or revenue generation to enhance profitability. Of course, we are providing you with a blank, customizable template for you to tailor to your value chain as well. Through benchmarking, we uncover areas ripe for improvement, ensuring our procurement strategies are not only cost-effective, but also aligned with the best industry practices. This proactive approach paves the way for continuous improvement and strategic success in our procurement and value chain. To summarize this lesson, here's a rundown of the key points you've gained. Analyzing costs and benchmarking performance are crucial steps in procurement management. By comparing purchase prices with market prices, companies and procurement professionals can assess the effectiveness of their spending and take steps to optimize procurement strategies. That was it for this lesson. See you in the next one.